work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brandon House.
All right, guys. Welcome. Glad you are with us. All right, so last night we got a lot to talk about here. The federal government's just bought, I guess is about to buy or just bought $9 trillion in federal debt. Nobody else wants it. $9 trillion. But you just keep believing that we're in the golden age. This is the best economy ever. And by the way, the new inflation numbers are out. Wait a minute. I thought the government shutdown so destroyed the CPI data that we would not perhaps ever know what it really is. Remarkably, now they have the number and it looks rosy. I wouldn't buy it. I'm sorry. This is a long history, Republican, Democrat, telling you things that are not true, particularly when it comes to CPI, Consumer Price Index, and inflation. I'm not buying it. And if you want to buy it to make yourself feel better and sleep better, go right ahead. But it's not true. Gold is at a record high. Silver pushed through $66 an ounce the other day. I think today, right now, we're on the air. It's around $65. I don't know. Maybe the guys can let me know. But look, we've got big problems. And even if inflation cooled a little bit, folks, when your own Fed is reportedly buying back now $9 trillion in debt, or buying $9 trillion in debt because nobody else wants it, this is not good. The whole system is based on this Keynesian economics model, which we've been talking about for a long time. John Maynard Keynes, Fabian socialist, John Maynard Keynes, through this continuous process of inflation, we can steal the majority of the people's wealth and not one man in a million. We'll know what we're doing. While it impoverishes many, it does enrich others. Well, it enriches the power elite because most of those guys are sitting on very good assets, oftentimes land, real estate, building, commodity, things that are hard assets. So we got that going on in the U.S. We have the farmers in the U.K., about 10,000 of them have showed up. 10,000 farmers, and maybe you've seen some of the footage online. ViceGuard 24 reports around 500 tractors and 10,000 farmers across the European Union have gathered at Luxembourg Square in front of the European Parliament in Brussels to protest the EU's planned free trade agreement with Mercosur. It's a South American trade bloc comprising of Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay. Have any of you noticed that it doesn't really matter who the world leader is? Pretty much nations are souring on their own leaders. I think this is setting the stage for Bible prophecy. I think it's setting the stage for many people to say, this just isn't working. A leader, Congress, Parliament, whatever you want to call it, it's not working. Isn't that what Henry Spank of the Common Market so many decades ago said? We have too many committees already. We don't need another committee. What we need is a man of sufficient stature to hold the allegiance of the people and to lift us out of this economic morass into which we're sinking. Send us such a man, and be he God or devil, we'll receive him. I think that's what's happening. I woke up this morning to check and see how did people respond in the MAGA world, America First world, whatever you want to call it, to the speech by President Trump last night, one that we did not cover and did not carry. Because I said to my audience last night before we went on the air, as we went on the air, that, you know, I'm sorry. I've told you guys I'm just going to call balls and strikes. And we're going on now 11 months, too much talk, not enough action. Some good things, yes. I heard something great today by RFK Jr., actually. Some good things, yes. But a lot of things that he could do, he's not doing. Things he shouldn't be doing, he is doing. Letting Qatar come here, 600,000 Chi-Coms to prop up our colleges so those communist colleges can keep going. That's my opinion. Let's see. We can't have Americans do the entry-level jobs. They're just not smart enough. So we got to bring in the H-1B visa people. We're going to complain about the immigrants while we import the immigrants we want. apparently, I guess, for our tech bros so they can do coding and the Indians can take over the country and replace Americans with their Indian buddies, either here in the country or overseas. I mean, there's so much he's doing that are his own forced errors, which, of course, Mark Mitchell tried to tell him directly in the meeting there off the Oval Office in the private dining room, and then came onto my broadcast and shared the contents, all of it, of that meeting with us on Brandon House Live first and exclusively. I text Mark after President Trump's speech last night, and he calls me on the phone. I was just planning to have a little back and forth text, but he calls me and we both started saying, what was that? What was that? Well, we said we weren't going to carry it. We weren't going to carry it because I said, I don't think it's going to amount to anything. I think it's going to be a lot of talk and a lot of trying to convince you that this is the greatest economy in the world. Anyone complaining about inflation doesn't know what they're talking about. It's a golden age. And I said, I'm not going to go along with that. So the boys will monitor it in the control room. We'll let you know what is said, what is talked about. If he gets into Venezuela, as some have said he might do, well, we can go to that. We can cover that. But otherwise, no. Turns out I was right. I hate to say it. I wish I wasn't. But not only that, did you watch the speech? Did you watch it either live or replayed? Because that was really odd. He was running at 100 miles an hour. I don't know. I thought maybe he had a dinner date to get to or something. Or had he bought 19 minutes of airtime and was on a countdown clock, and at the end of 19 minutes, the TV networks take it away. And so he's got to get in a 45-minute speech in 19 minutes. Boy, he was running fast and loud. And I don't know, did someone sabotage his microphone? Because his microphone was way too hot. It was clipping. It was clipping. And I don't think he was yelling, but it gave the appearance and the sound of yelling over people's computers and televisions. And all you got to do is put in Trump yelling, and up popped a bunch of folks saying that same thing. And you look at the timestamps, and it's like 3-4 minutes into the speech. Why is he yelling at us? Why is he yelling at Americans? And after he spent, 18 minutes telling everybody how great the economy is and how everything is somebody else's fault, then he wanted to wish us all Merry Christmas. So the country just got scolded and then wished a Merry Christmas. That was really odd. And my wife said, I don't think that's the same Donald Trump that was in his first administration. I'm not sure that was the same Donald Trump that was even the guy that was out there campaigning in 2024 and came into office in 2025. Something seems different. I know. Something completely seems different. But so much of these errors are self-inflicted. He's had a horrible week, poor Donald. He's had a horrible week. The interview by his White House chief of staff, which I think is, in my opinion, is more of her protecting her credibility so she can get out of the White House at some point, go back to a PR firm and say to everybody, yeah, that was a train wreck, but I had no control over him. He does what he wants. Maybe that's what that was. Then he said what he did about Rob Reiner, which was horribly timed and comment to make under such circumstances. And then he has people that have been some of his biggest supporters on Fox News and other places taking him on for that. It just seemed like a very bad week polling-wise, and his numbers are reflecting this. And I don't know, maybe that made him upset. I don't know. But that was, I've been watching presidential speeches since I was a kid. I mean, I'm talking early elementary. I mean, I remember my parents saying, come down to the TV room. You're going to watch as Richard Nixon leaves the office because you'll want to remember this as an adult. And I remember watching it. And I've been watching presidential speeches a long time. That one was not very good last night. It certainly, here's what my wife said, because I always like her opinion. She said, boy, that doesn't invoke confidence. That speech didn't invoke confidence or someone that was calm, cool, in control, a steady hand. So I don't know what's going on, but that was not good. But I think it kind of fits with the whole theme of what I'm trying to tell you right now. And that is, as today I'm watching videos by people, some of them who were pardoned by President Trump, are talking about that speech last night and just overall where the administration is going. Dan Bongino is going to be leaving as the deputy director of the FBI. Didn't he say a few months ago, guys, that he saw some things that just took his breath away? Just horrific things that took his breath away. Didn't he say something like that? And I don't know what he saw, but what did he get done while he was there? And apparently he's leaving. And I'm going to go back to his podcast. And I don't know who's going to listen to his podcast unless his program is going to be about spilling the beans and how bad things are and that basically you can't fix it. Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, none of them can fix the FBI. It's America's secret police. It runs itself, just like the CIA has a dark shadow government that runs it, a power elite. That so much of the people in Washington, as others have said, are either bought off, paid off, bribed, honeypot, whatever you want to say, however it's done. And there's just not enough people that are free will people to do anything. Too many have been captured and they're controlled. But notice that it seems as though globally, more and more and more people have had it with their governments, with their leaders, which again, I think is setting the stage for a world leader to step up who can perform counterfeit miracles, signs, and wonders. Like I've said before, he could say, look, I'm not like all the other politicians. They make a lot of promises. They're all talk, largely no action. You want to see action? You want me to validate my abilities, my intellectual and even spiritual power? And he performs counterfeit miracles and signs and wonders to validate himself as a Christ-like figure. Why else would the Bible tell you that? Anything. Too many have been captured and they're controlled. So, were you guys just saying something to me?
All right, you're back, Brandon.
Oh, how long were we gone for?
A little while, about 6 minutes.
Oh, wow, you guys have missed a lot of good stuff.
I know.
Well, glad you're back, guys. So I think it is setting the stage for a world leader, as so many people are coming to the conclusion. It really doesn't matter who's in power, Republicans, Democrats, Labor Party. I mean, go around the world. It really doesn't matter. Not much changes. People are becoming increasingly frustrated as, again, we're watching 10,000 farmers across the EU that have gathered there in Luxembourg in front of the European Parliament. Things getting a little out of hand over there. I'll tell you, this is, again, for those of you that are regular listeners to the broadcast, you know this is the Hegelian dialectic. Thesis and antithesis, idea, opposite idea. You let the groups conflict, and you get the change comes from the conflict, but also you end up with people becoming demoralized. And isn't that what Yuri Bezmenov warned about? Demoralize, destabilize. Do you appreciate all the free programming we produce here at Worldview Tube? Well, if you do, we need your partnership now. If you're already supporting us, thank you. If you're not, would you please consider doing so? We have to have a big November and December end of the year giving. Please go here right now to this website, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. You can give through credit card. You can give through PayPal. You'll find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. You'll also find our phone number. Simply use that phone number by leaving a voicemail for Melissa or texting her, and my wife will get back with you and help you make your contribution over the phone. We send out tax receipts with our EIN number, well, the first week of February of each year. We, again, have to have a very big November and December as we get ready for pushing out more Christian worldview programming for 2026. So thank you for going now to worldviewfoundation.com. That's worldviewfoundation.com. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Oh, I missed that, Mark, because I never heard the bumper music. because I have a $200 earpiece that isn't worth 10 cents. This is a perfect example why a lot of people don't do television, because the budgets for television are ridiculously high because they overprice and overcharge you, in my opinion, for everything. Like this $200 earpiece, like I said, it's not worth 10 cents. How many of these a year do we have to buy, guys? Like 3 or 4? Because they break, they don't work. They're just so cheap. So this cheap earpiece, $200 earpiece, this one here is only, what? I didn't even have this one a month, right? And we were already having to replace it with something else. But sorry, I missed that. It's probably made in China. So back to our topic at hand, before I move to some clips, the Hegelian dialectic process to get people demoralized, as Yuri Bezmenov said, demoralize, destabilize, chaos, and then the new norm. Now, what the goal was there was to get people to turn against the system. The communist plan to turn against the system, the free market system. Demoralize, destabilize, chaos, and the new norm of a socialist state. I think where we're going now, folks, is demoralize, destabilize, chaos, and the acceptance of not a traditional socialist state, but of technocracy. Because right now, I think, and Mark Mitchell has shown us the polls of the percentage of young people that would rather have AI running the show than these politicians, that many of them are self-serving. Demoralize, destabilize, chaos, and then the new norm of a globalist system run by really a small collection of leaders that end up turning their power over to the Antichrist. That's what Daniel describes. That's what John in Revelation describes. And we go to the whole issue of our currency. I want to go to this. The Fed just admitted markets won't buy $9 trillion of federal debt. So the Fed will. Now, I don't know, does Donald Trump not know this? Because why is he so adamant about bragging about low inflation when he knows these numbers aren't accurate, number one? They couldn't even tell what the numbers were because the government shut down. They thought the numbers were destroyed. We may never know. And then remarkably, within a few weeks, oh, here are the numbers. And they just happened to fix us, fix to our end, to our goal. Well, let's just wait another month, okay? And then let's see what the numbers are. And watch as they revise them, because both Republicans and Democrats always do this. But if you know that your own government is having to buy $9 trillion in debt, why would you be making so much of your campaign about affordability? Well, because that's what's got people upset. Yeah, well, you might want to tell people why we have an affordability problem. Because of this thing called the Federal Reserve that came out in 1913 and what it's been doing to the country. Give the people a history. But I would venture to guess, folks, if I were to explain to Donald Trump the history of the Federal Reserve, the creature from Jekyll Island, how this happened, he would not have a clue. Because like a lot of our leaders today, they're not readers. They don't read. They get briefed and they read teleprompters. Or they go off on rants that really solve no problems. Inflation is going to continue. There's no other option for this government but to debase the currency and try to wipe out some of the debt with cheap dollars, which is what many people have warned about for decades. I don't offer financial advice. I give a financial opinion. And we have talked about hard assets, gold, silver, land, cattle, what the Bible describes as real wealth, right? Inflation actually helps the rich, the super rich, because they have hard assets, most of them. It hurts the poor the most. That's what, in the middle class, that's what John Maynard Keynes said. By this continuous process of inflation, we can steal the majority of the people's wealth, and not one man in a million will know what we're doing. Most Americans, listen to me, folks, most Americans do not realize why they're struggling financially. They say, oh, it's affordability. They don't understand the debasement of currency. They don't know about the Federal Reserve. Oh, you say they don't? Well, yes, they know about it, but they don't know how it works. They don't know it's really a group of private banks, given a federal charter in 1913. These are things only the smart and intellectual and discerning and self-taught know, which is this audience. You're to ask the average man on the street. Maybe we should do that. Ask the average man on the street, tell me about the Federal Reserve. When was it founded? What does it do? Is it constitutional? Yes or no? They don't know. But you're going to make your whole case about inflation being down and coming down when you know it's only going to go back up. It has no other direction to go but up. Now, this is a guy I follow from time to time named Dr. Peter St. Onay. Am I saying his name right, you think, guys? O-N-G-E? Listen to what he has to say about the Fed buying this $9 trillion. Because, folks, this is one of many reasons why gold and silver are going up. But silver's going up too, folks, because it is used in industrial pursuits, which include data centers. But here we go.
The Federal Reserve just announced it's unleashing the money printers to finance a $9 trillion wall of federal debt coming due this year. As in, markets won't buy it, so the Fed will with counterfeit money. This is where the Fed types zeros on Excel sheets in the basement, declares their dollars like any good counterfeiter, then uses those fake dollars to buy government debt called quantitative easing or QE. Jerome Powell said the Fed's kicking off with $40 billion a month, which is a $500 billion per year, lovingly printed straight out of your wallet. Now, this is concerning because the last time the Fed did this in the 1940s to finance World War II, it sent inflation into the double digits. At one point in 1947, annual inflation was 20%. In fact, it's how Weimar Germany got to hyperinflation and wheelbarrows of money, because once the central bank starts printing the deficit with inflation, it's very tempting to make that deficit very big. After all, there's a lot of special interests to feed in Washington, $1 trillion here, $1 trillion there. Soon it is real money. What's even more concerning is that in the 1940s, it was just about financing government debt. Today, the Fed needs to pump hundreds of billions just to sustain a financial sector that has ballooned to nearly 5 times GDP. The Fed literally admitted this, with Jerome Powell claiming that this is not real QE, which everybody knows is inflationary. This, in fact, is necessary to maintain, quote, ample reserves so the Fed can maintain control of interest rates. In other words, the financial system breaks unless the Fed keeps a full plate of cocaine or inflation by the bar. The Fed knows this because markets cracked both times the Fed tried draining QE. There was the so-called taper tantrum in 2013 and then another one again in 2019, just before COVID, when interbank rates spiked to double digits. In both cases, the Fed got back to printing toot sweet, bringing us to so far $5.5 trillion of freshly printed QE since the 2008 crisis, which is almost as many dollars as existed in 2008. So what's next brought to you by I Trust.
All right, so there you go. This is only going to get worse. And isn't it interesting that countries like the Weimar Republic saw hyperinflation? Who took advantage of that and came to power was Adolf Hitler. One has to wonder if we are going to see on a global scale the central banks of the world, the nations of the world, losing control because of the debt crisis that so many of these nations have, which, of course, has enriched the central bankers. And then a world leader steps on the stage right in the middle of wars, rumors of wars, plague, pestilence, pandemics. Now, you have a lot of young people today that are extremely upset. And one reason why is because they think, hey, we went to school, we got a degree, we play by the rules, and we can't find a job. And the more, again, you have of these people that are discouraged, they have an option. And that's what we're seeing now. They either say, okay, I tried to be a part of the system didn't work, so now I'm for burning down the system. And they then go from being people who go to college, to degree, to join the so-called free market system, which has not been free market in this country since 1913, but they go to join that system. They realize they played by those rules. They have nothing to show for it but massive debt, no job, back living at home with their parents. And what do? They now say, well, let's go to socialism. I'm all for that. And one reason why is, of course, they are now just 12% of college grads have a job by graduation. That number used to be 39%. Here again is Dr. Peter St. Onay.
A new study finds just 1 in 8 college grads have a job by graduation. That used to be almost half. Almost makes you think maybe we don't need to import tens of millions of third worlders to fill jobs. The number comes from CareerPlannerIntelligent.com, who reports just 12% of Gen Z college graduates have secured full-time employment by graduation, while 58% are still looking for work, making do with hourly gigs at Home Depot or living in mom's basement playing League of Legends. For comparison, almost half of millennials and Gen X had a job by graduation. In fact, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the unemployment rate for 20 to 24-year-olds is now almost 10%, the worst since the molasses speed recovery after the 2008 crisis. More ominously, the unemployment rate is now identical for young people with college degrees and high school degrees. A year ago, it was a third worse for high schoolers. In other words, the 150,000 degree is now zero protection.
Wow. Zero protection with a college degree. Just got a text from one of our avid listeners. Brandon, you're right on target today. Thank you for the bravery in holding our government accountable regardless of who's in office. Well, thank you. Someone just texted and said, Brandon, maybe these COVID shots have totally changed Trump. Well, he did it. His doctor admitted he got himself one. But it doesn't help, again, when the president's on TV. I've seen some of the commercials wanting you to buy his watch with his name on it. It just doesn't help. And again, you can go and watch the trailer for his wife's new movie coming out in January. And I just watched the trailer and, man, they live nicely. And like I said yesterday, that's up to them. I mean, they work hard, I'm sure, for their money and took a lot of risk. And that's how the system works. I'm not begrudging them of that. What I'm saying is these people are so out of touch. I think they are so out of touch. He used to be tuned in to the American people. He seems completely out of touch with the average American today. That was what made him so appealing. He was the blue-collar billionaire, if you will, right? He's completely out of touch. And I don't think it's a good idea to release a movie showing you flying around on private planes and government planes and in your penthouse and wearing the finest of clothes and jet setting. I don't think that's a good idea in January. Not when the midterms are coming up. But that's the image they're going to put out, okay? And again, I go back to the fact that maybe Americans need to wake up and realize that it doesn't really matter anymore who we elect. And the reason why is we don't have state rights. We're largely losing state rights. We have a government in Washington that we spend way too much time talking about. I think, again, the founders would be shocked that we spend so much time talking about the federal government. That's not the system they wanted for us. But it's the Hegelian dialectic. And, well, don't go away. I got more.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate under-sink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity, all from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
Welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. I feel sorry. I don't know if words feel sorry. I have compassion. I have compassion for a lot of young people today. This is a very hard world to grow up in. It was never easy. I don't think it's been easy for any generation, but it's extremely hard today. There are so many temptations. There are so many things that are so destructive to good morals, to character, to morality. There's so many alligators and sharks that our young people have to deal with in the cultural stream. And then you have the cost of college, and that's if you can afford to go to college. And then you do, and then you get out, and only 12% can get a job within the first few months. And then is it even enough to pay back the loan you're making? So I have compassion on a lot of the young people today. The drugs that are so prevalent in our culture. And now I'm sad to say, President Trump, has he not signed an executive order now lowering marijuana down to class 3? Is that right, guys? Yep. And they say it's for research purposes. Who's going to benefit from that? Why do we want to do that? Well, I don't know. Maybe that's part of the globalist plan, Noah Harari. Well, we're going to have AI doing so much that we'll go to universal basic income and we'll keep everybody on drugs and playing video games. And again, I think this fits with Bible prophecy. You go and you read the book of Revelation as we went through the study, and you see that there is such a level of demonic activity on the planet during that tribulation period. And you have to wonder again with the issue of pharmakeia, pharmaceuticals, altered states of consciousness, witchcraft, sorcery. And folks, now I'm concerned about what's going on with Venezuela. Now, again, you go back into our vault. We've been talking since 2008 about Venezuela, Caracas, northern Venezuela, 1,264 miles as the crow flies to Miami. But all of a sudden, now everybody wants to talk about Venezuela. Well, we've had since at least 2008, if not before, to talk about Venezuela and Iran and China and Hezbollah and Russia being there. And I'm going to ask you, do you know for certain that China or Iran, specifically Iran, who had flights going in there, we're told by numerous outlets for years. Do you know for certain Iran does not have missiles in Venezuela? Do you know that for certain? No, you don't. Neither do I. And I don't think our government does either. Our government doesn't even know what's on the ground here in America. Nuclear suitcases, Club K cars. And again, that speech last night would have been a perfect opportunity for the president to brief the American people. My fellow citizens, we are living in a dangerous time. Countries have united together economically, militarily. They have created pacts together in the last decade that poses an existential threat to our nation. The last administration, and before that, Barack Obama, their policies opened up this country, and I get daily briefings that we have no idea who is here in the country and what they have with them. Every day as president, when I wake up, if the power grid is still up, I consider it a great day and great success. Because our power grid, our infrastructure is at great risk from either kinetic attack or cyber attack. Our friends in Israel have just informed us again how much at risk they as a nation are, as well as are we. And now we know that Iran and Russia and China and Hezbollah are operating very aggressively in Venezuela in our backyard. We are going to try to deal with this existential threat that they've moved into our backyard with. But I have to brief the American people and let them know about these threats. And God forbid our power grid goes down. If we have a disruption in just-in-time inventory and medical facilities, there is absolutely no way your local, state, or federal government can do everything and come to everybody's aid. Therefore, it is absolutely imperative that those who can prepare and prepare as well for those who can't. Why can we not have a speech like that last night? Oh, it'll shake the markets. You mean the fake, phony markets? The fake, phony markets that are propped up with what I believe largely are corporations that put out a lot of garbage. And if we really had a rule of law, people would go to jail. And the markets having money pumped into them, and our government buying $9 trillion in our own debt. But we can't tell the truth about an existential threat where millions of Americans can die because we now have enemies in our country, foreign and domestic, inside this country, on this soil, and right there in Venezuela. And we don't know what's in Mexico on our border. But we sure know a lot of our enemies are developing massive drones that go really fast, and we have no system to protect against these drones. But no, I'm sorry. We have to give a speech that talks about how much he has done, I have done, and Trump RX. And of course, I have to put my name on it. And now we're reading, and I've searched out different websites today. You don't have to show it, guys, but I've searched out different websites today to see if it indeed is true. And apparently it is. As you know, President Trump announced a blockade, a total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers entering or leaving Venezuela. Why did that not come up last night? Why did Venezuela not come up last night? What we are going to do, what we're not going to do, what we should be prepared for? But now I'm reading that sometime between Tuesday evening and Wednesday morning, the Venezuelan Navy began escorting several commercial vehicles carrying petroleum byproducts out of ports headed toward Asia. And apparently these are confirmed by ship tracking data, satellite imagery, and sources that are familiar with these various operations. The escorted vehicles were reportedly not on the U.S. sanctions list targeted by the blockade, but the action was a defiant move by Nicolas Maduro's government to protect oil-related exports amid escalating tensions. A U.S. official acknowledged awareness of the escorts and said options were being considered. Are we that close to getting into a conflict with Russia, China, Iran, Hezbollah right in our backyard? And again, do we know what's going on in Russia in Mexico right over the border, that they are in a huge relationship with China? Huge. What else do we have? Let's see. Let's talk about a little bit Boston University. Why didn't we hear about this last night? Why didn't we hear about the tax on Jews and Christians? Senator Tommy Tuberville, who I had the chance to interview in the rotunda there on Capitol Hill in May, he was running for governor of Alabama. He took time out on the Senate floor with a very large picture of Ella Cook. Listen to what he said about this dear soul that was murdered and apparently targeted, and according to sources, shot multiple times, very close. And this was maybe a targeted assassination of this very vocal Christian young lady. Where's the talk about this?
And travel. She was studying French at Brown University. She also loved kids and spent much of her time babysitting and serving in Sunday school. She believed her highest calling was to be a mom one day. But the most important thing to know about Ella is that she was a devout Christian. She was very involved in her church, the Cathedral Church of the Advent in Birmingham, and was loved by everyone there. In her obituary, it says, not only did her personal faith shine out like a bright Christmas star, but she loved others as real people, not as objects. Ella loved God with her whole heart, and she loved people with her whole heart. The Reverend of Ella's church described her as an incredible, grounded, faithful, bright light who lifted up those around her. I can't think of a better legacy to leave behind than that. She went off to college at Brown, where she was studying French, mathematics, economics, and was obviously very, very smart. She also was a patriot who loved this country, and she served as vice president of the College Republicans at Brown University. She was clearly a very courageous young lady, and I can't imagine that was an easy job on such a liberal campus as Brown.
So not only do our young people have to deal with the sharks and alligators of this cultural stream and in this cultural stream, but now if they are committed conservatives, committed Christians, if they are Jewish, now these young people have to fear speaking up, speaking out, and then being murdered. I would very much like to know what kind of speech Ronald Reagan would deliver right here, right now, if he were president. At a time when our young people are very tuned into social media, they know more about what's going on in many regards socially, pop culture-wise, than most adults. Many young people are openly seeing people being murdered who are outspoken conservative Christians and self-professing Christians. Charlie Kirk, Ella Cook, others. We have the young couple murdered in Washington, D.C. They were Messianic Jews. So not only do our young people have to contend with trying to make a way in life today, but now they're seeing that if you're a practicing Jew, if you're a practicing Christian, even just simply on your college campus, you're not even elected office. You could be targeted and murdered for that. And of course, this is where the FBI is now calling these people nihilistic extremists. Well, wonder why it is they're nihilistic. Because they've been taught that you just evolved from pond scum. Life has no meaning, no purpose. Where are our leaders putting purpose back into life?
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home, went to bed. So before the break, I said, where are our leaders today inspiring young people to purpose? Reality is, the sad thing is, they're being told you serve no purpose. Not only did you evolve from pond scum, there is no divinely inspired reason for your being here, because you were not created by an all-powerful God who ordained your days and knit you together in your mother's womb. No, that's all a lie by the radical, extremist, fundamentalists that want to control you and enslave you with their narratives, with their social constructs. We're just all here, folks, by billions and billions of random mutations that just happen to work out, and here we are. Life has no ultimate meaning or purpose. Really, it does have only one purpose, and that is might makes right, power. And it doesn't matter how you get it, just get it. Spiritualized cruelty. I'm quoting to you Friedrich Nietzsche, Charles Darwin, merged together. The dominant worldviews of our day. And now, not only are the young people told there's no divine creator, there's no ordained plan for your life, God doesn't know who you are because there is no God. Life has no meaning. You have no purpose. In fact, you have no purpose to the point you will not have a job, because we're going to create an environment with technocracy that keeps you from having a purpose. Let me tell you something, folks. Right now is the time that real Christian leaders could have such an impact if they understood things like nihilism, postmodernism, communism, syncretism, and these worldviews merging together. And if they could explain to young people, listen, this world seems to be running out of control, spiraling out of control, but I have to show you something, the Bible. It's right on path. This is lining up for what God's word says. And there is a solution to the problem. And it starts with recognizing that you're lost and you need a savior. And yes, then you can have a divine purpose. That as Christians right now, we have more relevance than ever before if we would simply understand the times and provide the answers. The answers to the questions that many are asking, whether verbally or internally. Last night, I had the chance to interview a lady that worked with Bill Clinton. She worked with Al Gore. Maybe that shocks you. I went to sleep last night thanking the Lord that I had the opportunity once again to talk to Naomi Wolf. I thanked the Lord. I said, Lord, I could never imagine if someone had told me one day you'll have a friendship and be on the air interviewing someone that worked closely with Bill Clinton and Al Gore, and that you guys will be friends and you'll learn from each other and you'll encourage each other. I said, Lord, that's an amazing thing. Thank you, Lord, for putting me where I am today, teaching me what I have learned so that I can influence people in an area and in a sphere I never dreamed possible. People that have even come out of the White House in administrations that I would have never guessed that kind of person could be someone that would be a friend or a regular guest or someone I would learn from, and they would learn from us. Well, that's what happened last night. We learned a lot from Dr. Naomi Wolf over COVID. But she has a background in her family as well when it comes to a Jewish heritage. And I want to show you a little bit of what happened last night to show you how we as Christians, if we know what we believe and why, we can make a lot of sense out of the chaos and help people understand so many important things. Many people that are seeking answers. Watch and listen to this little exchange here, and I'll come back. Listen. You have to remember, Martin Luther was quoted 3 times by Hitler in Mein Kampf. But this is my calling in life has been largely, in one sense, with my many, many books, is calling out the evangelicals because of where they've been going. And one of them is the replacement theology. I'm fighting the anti-Semitism through the theological and eschatological beliefs of the modern church to say, no, God's done with Israel. He's done with the Jews. We don't care about that. We're now the new Israel, the church. I'm like, really? It's funny. You guys want to take all the blessings described in the Old Testament, but you don't want to take any of the curses in the Mosaic covenant. So this is a fight, sadly, that is repeating itself from the 1930s when the German Christians dissolved their denominations and united under the Reich bishop handpicked by Adolf Hitler for the same reason. They had all bought into the replacement theology. So you and I are, I think, fighting this in different areas, but it's the same fight. Closing comment?
Well, I'm just so grateful to you because you've solved a mystery that was really haunting me. I keep seeing people online saying these crazy things like, Jews are no longer God's chosen people. You guys blew it, and so now we've replaced you. The church has replaced you. I'm like, that's not theologically accurate in Christianity.
It's not.
And I was wondering where it came from. And so now you're telling me that there's a very dangerous, untrue, inaccurate wave of misinformation, basically, going into American churches.
Yeah. Again, understand who she is. I think she was a Rhodes Scholar. If I remember correctly. Maybe someone could look that up. Folks, do you realize what God is doing and can do? And the people that he can use us to influence, who they can then influence? In a crazy world that's running out of control as it appears to be, but really isn't. That means we have to know what we believe. We have to know why we believe it. We have to be ready to speak up and not be embarrassed or ashamed. Or how will people think of me? For years, I've been criticized as a conspiracy theorist, but those are all coming true now. For years, I was, he's a Zionist. And I'm like, no, I'm a Christian Zionist. We have to get where we don't care about our reputation anymore. Yes, a good name's rather to be chosen than great riches. But we can't be so self-absorbed that we worry, what do people think of me? What will my reputation be? God looks on the heart. Man looks on the outward appearance. That's a two-edged sword. We have to get to a point where we are in reckless abandonment for Christ and in truth, and we don't care what the in crowd in our town, our city, thinks. We don't care. What we'll find is when we are gracious like that, we don't care, we're not measuring up to them, we're not following man, not trying to please man, but yet we speak truth. What you're going to find very quickly are the number of people that are drawn to you. We just had an open house at our home. 45 people came through. You know what the common theme was in emails and texts back? It felt so warm, so inviting. I loved the evening. Be like that.
This has been...
And we're back with WRS out of Jacksonville, Florida. And you here on Worldview Tube. That was a common theme we heard from folks on email and text and notes after our open house with 45 people. It felt so warm and inviting and friendly and loving place. And I said to my wife, yep, because it is a cruel world. It is a selfish, cruel world. And people have all kinds of struggles. And when someone opens their home, which is one of the most personable things you can do for anybody, is open your home to them, make a meal for them, visit with them, create an environment that is like a little oasis. And it was something like out of a Norman Rockwell painting. Big fire was going. We had our piano player here playing on the mini grand piano, the same one you see in my concerts. All kinds of great food. Melissa had done a great job decorating. And you know what? When you invite people around like that, guess what some of your friends and neighbors, and some of them I don't know so well, they may say, yeah, I've looked you up online, watched some of your stuff. Let me tell you something. They start to think, that couple opened their home. That couple treated me as someone special. There's a lot of ways that we as Christians can influence the culture and the people around us. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, this is not only a guy that's pretty adamant and confident in what he believes, But he and his wife, they're the kind of people I know if I have a problem, I could go to them. They've been kind and gracious. Don't confuse being kind and gracious and compassionate with also being very, very dogmatic in a good way. What we need is to quit worrying about what people think. They're going to think what they're going to think. All we can do is try to let them get to know us a little bit. Let them see who we are personally. And then watch how many of them start to feel comfortable enough to say, you know what, I agree with you. I agree with you. And how many people we can have say, like Dr. Naomi Wolf, whoa, you've just helped answer a mystery for me. The issue is I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to be here. You think about if indeed this is really true, that 19-year-old Ella Cook was assassinated because of who she was. I'm telling you, we don't live in fear. We're careful, but we don't live in fear. But if we're to the point where someone is murdered simply because they're a 19-year-old Christian at their college, do you realize what that means for people like me and Annie Cyrus and the rest of us on this network who are reaching millions and millions? We just saw what was likely an MIT Jewish scientist, and now Israel saying that was Iran that murdered him. We not only have to worry about the crazy Islamist in the country and the crazy Marxist and the unhinged. We have to worry now about the IRGC and their list of people who's on it, who they want to take out. I'm not worried about that. Do we take precautions? We do. What I'm saying to you is we are to a point where all we can do is what we can do and then trust the Lord. But we're just passing through here. And everyone of us should be living like we could be killed tomorrow. Because as Christians, it's getting to that point. Every one of us. If a 19-year-old girl can be killed on her campus simply because she was a known Christian, here's the question, though. How many people know you're a Christian? It's likely to get worse before the church is removed. The Bible says they'll kill you thinking they're doing a favor for God. They'll kill you thinking they're serving God. The God of what? Islam? The God of social justice? The God of tolerance? The God of pantheism? Which God? It's Satan, ultimately, the God of this world. And then we have the Romans 1 fool, the Prime Minister of Australia, coming out and saying that they're going to now work on hate crime legislation. And they even specifically called out the pastors. Oh, yeah. We're on borrowed time in so many ways. I don't know about you, but I'm to the point where I'm going to speak truth, and I don't care if people like it or don't like it. I'll try to do as nice as I can, but I don't care if I offend people because you are committed to a politician or any other system. I'm not. Take care.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books.